Singer and songwriter Carolyn Malachi's unique approach to music combines jazz, hip-hop, spoken word, and lots of imagination. Dubbed Sweet Songstress by BET, the independent Grammy-nominated artist and great-granddaughter of pianist John Malachi counts Yasin Bey, Radiohead, and Sarah Vaughan amongst her greatest influences. She released Revenge of the Smart Chicks in 2008 and Revenge of the Smart Chicks 2 in 2009. Both albums reveal the inner workings of smart chicks, which Carolyn Malachi defines as decidedly authentic women. Her 2010 release, The Lions, Fires, and Squares EP, earned a 2011 Best Urban Alternative Performance Grammy Award nomination for the single Orion. Microsoft featured her motivational Beautiful Dreamer video on Windows Media Guide. Her Free Your Mind video supports the School Fund's global education efforts. The artist joined forces with Fiat to encourage safe driving, and BET presented Carolyn Malachi at its 2012 Leading Women Defined Summit. In July 2013, Malachi released Gold, and she's already receiving Grammy buzz for this body of work. Carolyn's motto, Onward and Upward, is most definitely indicative of her trajectory. Miss Malachi is certainly ready for the world. Hi, I'm Kiana Faircloth, and you're tuned into another episode of It Was All a Dream, featuring singer-songwriter Carolyn Malachi. Hi, Carolyn.
How are you?
Great. Thank you so much for agreeing to do this.
My pleasure.
First off, I want to know, has it always been your dream or aspiration to be an artist?
I think I always wanted to be a leader. My parents impressed upon me that I had to.
Yeah.
I didn't have a choice because I was the firstborn.
Mm-hmm.
And I have family members who have always owned businesses or been involved in politics or part of the police force. So some part of me always wanted to own a business or run something.
It's in your blood.
Yeah, definitely. But when I found music, I think that's when I decided to apply all of those skills to my music career.
Absolutely. What would you say to artists, independent artists that are aspiring in this market, where that specific genre of music like go-go is prevalent? What would you say to that person to encourage them? And do you have, I guess, a blueprint for that artist in order to get started and really get going?
Well, the funny thing is, I would say that there is no blueprint. That you really have to find your way. For me, going to the poetry open mics, presenting my poetry, but then also singing with that or rhyming with that, that was such a valuable exercise for me because it allowed me to learn what most connected to the people. What messages were most relevant to them. It also allowed me to realize when I was not making the connection, or when I needed to go back to the drawing board, and maybe go back and warm up a little bit more. Because the point I'm making is that trial and error is absolutely the most valuable part of your growth and development.
When did you start going to open mics?
I started consistently attending open mics. It had to have been in 2007, a year after I graduated from college.
Oh, wow.
And by that time, I had a band, some classmates that I met while at Shepherd University. So we've been working together for a couple of years. And in 2008 is when I released my first CD because I saw that, again, with the business mind at work, I saw that the poets on the Baltimore poetry scene, I was living in Baltimore at the time, that they were gaining so much traction, not just because they were good, but because they had product, they had something tangible that the listener could take with them, that they could not just hold in their car or in their iPod, but that they could then share with someone else. And I knew that I wanted what I was saying and singing and rhyming to be heard by a lot of people, and not just the people who were in front of me at that moment.
That's right.
Yeah.
Speaking of Shepherd, you went to Shepherd University. How important has education been in fulfilling your dream?
Wow. In ways that are very surprising. So I will say, and it's a funny story, that I rarely tell, but I'm going to tell you. So my freshman year, I was placed in my elective courses. So I knew, what my major courses were going to be, my general studies or whatever. But my advisor placed me in an audio production class. And it was like an intro to communications, that kind of thing. And the professor that was supposed to be teaching the class, the intro to communications course, she got sick, so she couldn't teach that semester. So the chair of the department ended up teaching that class. And then I took his music production class later. So if it had not been for my advisor, now I don't know if the Lord tapped my advisor on the shoulder and told him to put me in that class at that time, because that professor who was sick, she came back the next semester. But if I had never met the director of the department, Dr. Kevin Williams, thank you very much, I never would have taken his class because he was so interesting to me. But in his audio production class, that's where I learned Soundtrack, which back then was a new music production software. Actually, it was a film scoring software, but I used it to make beats for myself.
Wow.
So if those things had never happened, if I'd never gone to school, or even been in a position to access any of those resources, I wouldn't be here right now. But I made the decision to go to school, to do what I needed to do, to get there. I think my parents couldn't pay for me to go to school. I guess they could have, but they didn't. They didn't need to, because I got full scholarships. That's how bad I wanted to go to school.
Wow.
So if you're out there and you're wondering, whether or not to pursue a formal education, do consider it. And even if college necessarily is not the thing for you, there are trade organizations. I'm a member of the Recording Academy, which has offered me a very specific education for the music industry. And that has obviously served me very well. Yeah.
Absolutely. Speaking of, business and things like that, and surrounding yourself with like-minded individuals, what advice would you give to your fellow indie artists as far as, business is concerned, just anything you can pour into them as far as, I know you're big on marketing and branding and things like that. What advice would you give business-wise to indie artists?
There is always a temptation to work with people that may not stretch you. To work with people you feel that you're smarter than. That is the worst thing you can do for yourself and your business. The best thing you can do is to humble yourself and find people who are much smarter than you in areas that are not your expertise. And even in areas that are your expertise, for example, everybody on my team, from publicists to managers, agents, they know so much more than I do. But when it comes to me, what my craft is, I have to be the expert on that. And being the expert on that also means going out and seeking mentors who do what I do and have been doing it much longer than I have and are much brighter than me and much more skilled at what I do. So I will say that the greatest piece of advice I can give is to just surround yourself with people who are much smarter than you in those areas, but who can also be loyal to you. I'll say and who can also be loyal to you, and who you can tether to one vision. If you and your people around you believe in one thing, like you guys might come from different parts of the planet, but if y'all can rally around one vision, one purpose, that's probably one of the most powerful tools for business, just a vision. And it can be ambitious. Apple's vision, Steve Jobs' vision, he wanted to change the world.
In retrospect, what would you say have been some of the obstacles you've had to overcome to get to where you are right now?
Well, I will say at times I have been my biggest obstacle, because for a period of time, told myself that I did not deserve for some reason I didn't deserve success.
So you seem to have a theme of dreams throughout your projects. So I'm wondering how has it been for you as far as mapping out your dreams? Have you strategically laid some things out for yourself and gradually have checked those things off? What has been your process as far as envisioning your dream as an artist?
Well, I have corporate America to thank, for my time there. Very well spent. While I was working at Gaylord, I learned a process called 4DX, 4 Disciplines of Execution. And it's a management course that a company pays some folks to come in and teach. And so that's where I get the term wildly important goal from, WIG. So I know the power of having one vision, but it's even more powerful to have one vision and then steps to achieve it, and then steps to those steps to achieve it. But instead of creating like a huge tree, I've just learned that just doing a few things, one thing at a time, that's been key. Just doing one thing at a time, and it's very hard to just do one thing at a time, has helped me to be more effective. It's also been really good for me to create goals that I can measure. We'll create goals with results that I can measure, rather. Not just me, but my team as well. For us to have a real scoreboard, so we can look at things and go, okay, like this is what it really is. This is pretty ugly. We need to get here. So like we need to go from X to Y by this time. So just taking a really, strong, mathematic, and clear approach to something that's very not ambiguous, but some will say not so tangible, but I feel that taking that very direct approach has just served the whole process.
Absolutely. What would be your personal definition of success?
Wow, success, I think it's just achieving that vision you set for yourself. And it's key that it's a vision, it's a goal that you set for yourself, and it's key that it is set, and it's key that it is yours. I was talking to a friend of mine the other day, and he said someone to him said that he was a successful hip-hop artist because he had sold some records. And then his response was, well, Van Gogh sold one painting for 400 francs. Wow. So, right. So how do you qualify what is successful or not? I don't think you leave that up to anybody else but yourself.
Absolutely. One thing we like to do during these interviews is have the guest finish the sentence, "It was all a dream." I want you to think back to, before all of this, before people knew you as Carolyn Malachi, singer-songwriter, what led up to you now? It was all a dream.
It was all a dream, and it still is a beautiful dream.
All right. Where can we find out more about, all things Carolyn Malachi?
Yeah.
Tell the folks.
Folks! Well, you can find all things Carolyn Malachi, of course, at carolynmalachi.com, and it's CarolynMalachi.com. I'm also on Instagram and Facebook at Carolyn Malachi. On the Twitter, I am Carolyn_Malachi. And if you see me on the street, say hi. Sweet.
All right. Yeah. Thank you so much for your time. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Absolutely. It was all a dream, Carolyn Malachi.